bonus material. Let's start with another 5 steps. 5 steps to finding out where to start. Step number 1. Are you happy? That's a big step too. It's very important. You need to be happy. If you're not happy, you're going to struggle. So you need to find out first if you're happy. One of the ways to find out if you're happy is you can ask yourself. You can kind of ask friends or family for their perspective, but ideally it's going to come down to how you feel with it. But you should know in your gut if you're content. Now sometimes that might be something that might need a cluster map. You might need to ask yourself periodic times, like 5 or 6 times, get an analysis of that data to kind of analyze if you're going through something with a struggle or if you're really happy. But that's my first step. Ask yourself if you're happy. Step number 2. Do you feel like you're making others around you better? And that's something that I know it sounds a little altruist and almost selfless, but it's important. You should always feel like you're making someone else better who's around you, because when you are, you're also growing yourself, and you have purpose, you have motivation. We were talking at a meeting literally within 30 minutes ago at my editor job, and we were talking about what drives our patients, and someone brought up when people retire early, they usually die sooner because that purpose, that drive seems to kind of fade away. So you should always want to make those around you better. Number 3, how do you cope with things? Are you someone that dwells on a problem for longer than maybe necessary? Or maybe it is necessary for you to dwell on that problem for the allotted amount of time, but maybe it's hindering you from other growth that you could be doing. Do you struggle with time management as far as finding the time to grieve, which is very important, very needed, and finding the time to also move on, hold on to the issue, not ignore it, but face other obstacles and challenges that need to have your undivided attention as well. Number 4, and this one's a big one. Do you understand that you're not always right? We talked about this many times. Compromise, we talked about the ego, we talked about acceptance, we talked about perspective, we talked about boundaries, being firm in your beliefs, but also we talked about understanding sometimes there's not a right or wrong answer. Do you have the self-awareness to understand that right now? That's a big one. That was a big one for me. Sometimes someone can be doing something that is completely wrong, right? We look at it as completely wrong. In a different country, it's right. A different time period, it's right. A different gender, it's right. So that's something that is tricky. But that's an important part of understanding where you need to go, where you are now. Let's go to number 5, and this is going to tie into everything with the program, and as we move on to the next program, this is going to be a big thing, boundaries. I'm just going to come out and say it. It's repetitive, boundaries. Do you feel like you have good boundaries? Meaning, when you feel disrespected, you have appropriate ways of conducting yourself, expressing yourself, rectifying that situation. Do you feel like you have barriers that prohibit you from being disrespected to a degree, unless it's a rare and isolated incident? Meaning, I have a boundary with my friend, I have a boundary with my family, I have a boundary with my bosses, with my clients. Even something as simple as I don't answer business calls after 8 p.m. Something like that. Do you have good boundaries that are realistic, maintainable, understandable to a degree, and really boundaries come from within. Boundaries aren't about what's going on the outside. They come from within. Do you have good boundaries? And in your heart, you know if you feel like you do or you don't. And that's okay if you don't. And that's okay if you do. This is really to refresh those beliefs, those firm concepts. Or if you don't have good boundaries, this is to establish some. So these are my 5 tips that I would like you to ask yourself. Feel free to get back to me anytime. I'm David Gramling. It's been a pleasure working with you guys. For those of you who brought the program, this is the bonus material, so this is the end. For others of you who may find this on YouTube, I might present it as a free gift. Feel free to check out the program. We go into detail about all of these concepts and ideas. If you have any questions, you know where to find me. Thank you, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Enjoy yourself.